story that we are tracking right now, the Sena versus Sena verdict. For those who've just joined us, let me just brief you and then we go to our experts to speak more on the issue. Big day in Maharashtra politics. Assembly Speaker Rahul Narwekar is all set to deliver his verdict regarding cross-petitions filed by warring factions within the Shiv Sena. That's the big story that we are tracking right now. Let me now go to the guest. Jayant, I'm sorry I had interjected while you were speaking. Please go ahead, finish what you were saying so that I can then go to the other guests as well.
Yeah, like Congress, I want to say about Uddhav Thackeray. I mean, his father, Balasaheb Thackeray, was known as a vibrant Hindutva-worthy leader, something like whom BJP leaders also respected. They were saying that he is just next to Atal Advani for us. But I want to say that since 2012, that is after the death of Balasaheb Thackeray, whatever the moves of Uddhav Thackeray and whatever the way he has gone, you know, he is not following his father, but he is following his grandfather, Prabodhankar Thackeray, whose Hindutva was not that vibrant, but was liberal. And he was very friendly with Ambedkar. Now, the dilemma of Shiv Sena is this: they need the name of Balasaheb Thackeray to garner the votes. But actually, their current leader, that is Uddhav Thackeray, he is not ready to say that now I'm following the ideology of my great-grandfather. That's the time, because the day he has held the hand of Congress and NCP, from that day, he has followed the ideology of his great-grandfather. He should immediately, he should come out and say that, yes, I am liberal, I am secular, and I'm following the ideology of my grandfather.
Seriously, I mean, I with due respect, again, like the Congress party, Jayant, I mean, the man who started the magazine, the man who started cartooning was very different from the man who rode from Matushri. You know, a lot of water, you know, actually was down the Arabian Sea. So I'll come back to you. Let me, I'm going to come to you, Reni, in a moment. Let me bring in Brajesh here. Brajesh, today's verdict, whichever way it goes, do you think it will be a big churn in Maharashtra politics, or like Jayant said in the beginning, that it's not going to create so much of a tide that you're speaking about?
Well, I think, you know, if the decision goes against Shinde faction, then yes, it is going to create a churn in the sense that, you know, it will validate most of the assertion which has been made by Uddhav Thackeray, and also give push to the fact that, you know, that the BJP engineered this kind of defection. So yes, I mean, if Shinde group stands disqualified, it is going to create a major upheaval in the politics of Maharashtra. But if the decision goes otherwise, you know, which many people are predicting that nothing much is going to happen, then I don't think it is going to create much of a turmoil, because, you know, already it is more or less, you know, people have reconciled to the fact that, you know, that the government has gone. And I must put it on record that I completely agree with what Jayant was saying, that, you know, that you had all the hypotheses, yet the answer which came out was completely different from the, you know, the arguments which were put in favor. When he said that Speaker shouldn't have called for the flow test, and yet he was called, you resigned, that's why, you know, I'm not going to turn back the clock and all that gas. So the point is that, you know, people are not going to be surprised if it goes against Uddhav Thackeray. It will initiate a long drawn legal battle, because I think once they get the full copy of the judgment, their lawyers will go through it and immediately approach the Supreme Court. They have already filed a petition in the Supreme Court about, you know, Sanjay Raut was talking about how, you know, they have met in private, and which kind of gives away what is in the mind of the speaker and all. So I think, you know, they will immediately move to the court. But if the verdict goes against Eknath Shinde, then I think it is going to be a big boost as far as Uddhav Thackeray is concerned.
Tell me, Ashok, a quasi-political legal question is that there is a lot of, you know, focus on Rahul, the speaker, having met the chief minister. Rahul's whole contention was, listen, in order for me to, you know, do my duty and to deliver what I am doing, other than this, I have to meet the chief minister of my state. You know, after all, I have to get the job done. I mean, he's not saying, he's saying there are other things that he may be meeting. But would you see this as very improper that, you know, he met with him? Of course, you know, Raut said that why was a secret meeting there? So it's quasi, like I said, political and quasi legal. Is it proper at all for him to have met the Chief Minister just before this crucial day?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I think his meeting, Rahul Narwekar's meeting, the Speaker's meeting, the Chief Minister Eknath Shinde, reeks of impropriety.
It does.
Unfairness. Now, you see, when there's an adjudicating authority and he's asked on or he's called on to adjudicate on an issue of dispensing justice or dispensing orders, the rule is that you should not only dispense justice but also seem to be doing it. Now, here, what are the optics? What is the message that is going out? It is definitely improper on the part of the Speaker. What other work does he have with the Chief Minister of a state? The Speaker runs the House. His business is confined to the Legislative Assembly, how to run it, how to administer it. Besides that, today he's been, in fact not today, he was called on long back to decide on these disqualification petitions. He should have maintained an arm's length, not just from the Chief Minister, but also from the petitioners, cross-petitioners, both the sides. Give it an impression that you are adjudicating in an unfair, in a fair manner. Don't send out a message. You have 3 days before you are to pronounce a verdict on this very complex, complicated and a controversial issue. You are meeting the Chief Minister. You have a hush-hush meeting with the Chief Minister. What is the message you are trying to send out? So definitely, I am of the personal opinion, people may agree, may disagree. But this reeks of impropriety on the part of the Speaker of the Maharashtra Legislative Assembly.
All right. Rani, I want to come to you what Brijesh was saying about what if, the ramifications as it were, so far as the Eknath Shinde group is concerned. But don't you think that will also put the BJP in a bit of a spot? Because when the government was put in place, that is Shinde, BJP went to town saying that, everything is very constitutional, it's very proper, it's being done according to the rules. What kind of a messaging then comes from the BJP as well? Don't you think it's going to be a kind of a double whammy for both Shinde as well as the BJP?
Well, you're right. If I may put it this way, the moment the Eknath Shinde-led government was installed in Maharashtra, it was very apparent what the BJP's game plan was. They had effectively ensured that their numbers had crossed the threshold of 145 that is required in the 288 MLA strength Vidhan Sabha of Maharashtra. Having said that, the BJP's strategy at that time itself, even when they had installed the Eknath Shinde government, was to have a plan B. They knew that if this government got disqualified, then they would go for midterm polls. Now, the plan C that they had was effecting the mass defections in the Nationalist Congress Party as well, subsequently. So, please understand what their political strategy has been. Today, they know, even as they formed the government with the Eknath Shinde as the Chief Minister, they knew they had created a lot of public disenchantment and, disillusionment with politicians per se. And that would invite a negative vote that was likely to follow the moment elections were held. So therefore, they preferred not to hold any of the elections. Today in Maharashtra, there are over 27 municipalities that are being run by administrators and not the elected body of, corporators for over 2 years now. Similarly, there was a bypoll of a Lok Sabha seat in Pune that was due 6 months ago, which has also not been held. So much so that the Supreme Court had to pull up the Maharashtra government on the issue, and the Election Commission of India as well. So the point being, the BJP, knowing all these factors, is now in a position where they feel, which may be very wrong, but they feel that now if we go to polls, there will be two Shiv Sena factions that will be vying against each other.
Right.
As well as there will be two NCP factions that will be fighting against each other. and that may give them the slight edge that they are looking for.
The leeway, as it were. Just hold your thought there, Reni. Let me go to Kiran Tare, my colleague, who's now joined us on the phone line. Kiran, can you hear me? Hi,
yeah,
Kiran.
I can hear you.
Yeah. So, Kiran, you know, do you, what do you think? I was about to ask you about what you think about, you know, what Reni said just now, that it's advantage BJP any which ways. But I want first you to kind of tell us about the major ramifications of this verdict, which is much awaited by all of us here. How is it going to alter, or you think it's not going to make any difference to the politics in Maharashtra?
No, I think the politics in Maharashtra will be different from today. In any way the decision is going, whether it's going to favor Eknath Shinde or whether it's going to favor Uddhav Thackeray, Maharashtra will be a changed state afterwards. See what has happened, if Eknath Shinde wins this battle against Uddhav Thackeray, Eknath Shinde will get the hold of Shiv Sena, a party which is in true existence since 50 years, the party which has a roots in middle class and low middle class of the state. He will get hold of the proper Shiv Sena. That will be a biggest victory for his political career. As far as Uddhav Thackeray is concerned, if Uddhav Thackeray loses this battle, Uddhav Thackeray will not only lose his space, he is going to lose the faith of the people, because he is not going to represent Shiv Sena, the party which his father had built. So this is a very interesting battle, and I think, of course, the BJP will have a last word in any way the decision comes out, because if Shinde wins, BJP will have the last laugh, because it is BJP who had engineered this battle and who has engineered this rebellion. So in a way, this is first Eknath Shinde, and the second in line is, of course, Ajit Pawar and the NCP faction. So the decision on Eknath Shinde is applicable to the faction of NCP as well. Eknath Shinde's fate will be muted by Ajit Pawar as well. So whatever is happening in the state henceforth will be in favor of the BJP if Eknath Shinde wins this battle.
All
so that's why I say that, that's why I'm saying that this state is going to change entirely from today onwards.
All right. Jayant, you began by saying, if I'm right and if I recall right, that not so much, but my colleague Kiran Tare says that everything will change. But he brings up a very important point, and interesting rather, of Ajit Pawar. Weigh in on this, you know, what happens in, I mean, in case the Shinde faction kind of loses or has a disappointment today to this person called Ajit Pawar, his politics, his future, as it were.
I will put it in this way. Prithviraj Chauhan, former chief minister, when Ajit Pawar joined BJP government, he simply said that a person of the stature of Ajit Pawar will not join BJP government unless he is assured to be the chief minister.
Okay.
And his words, Prithviraj Chauhan's words are very important. A person who is MLA from 1991 and who was minister for the last 20 years and even deputy chief minister, he will not just go and bargain just for the same post. So there is something between the lines which has already been done. Is it for these 9 months, the remaining 9 months? Because my sources indicate that even BJP is aware that if Mr. Ajit Pawar, the second Maratha strongman after Sharad Pawar, and being young, is more appreciated, loved by the Maratha community, as we have seen in Baramati and others, he will be more beneficial to BJP if he is made chief minister in this position. Will BJP play that gamble? That is more important. Because there is a section in BJP, they are not happy with Ajit Pawar joining the BJP forces.
But then that is...
There is a section...
Yeah, but what he says, Brijesh, just a minute, Jayant, I'll come back to you. Very interesting point you make. But then that is only, I mean, it seems like a very hypothetical situation, because if the Shinde faction is disappointed today, what happens to Ajit Pawar? Doesn't it seem like it's curtains for him for the time being?
No, if Shinde faction is disappointed by that, I hope you mean that, you know, they are disqualified. You know, if they are disqualified, I think, you know, the chances for Ajit Pawar increases a lot. You know, if the BJP makes it a issue of pratishtha, or make it a issue of saying that, you know, come what may, we are not going to change Eknath Shinde, and they go through the MLC route, That is another thing. But by and large, on the face of it, other than giving a massive boost to Uddhav Thackeray, I think, the chances of the prospects of Ajit Pawar can rise exponentially. Because, Ajit Pawar, and there are many in the BJP who are not very happy with the fact that, that Eknath Shinde is the chief minister of Maharashtra. But the fact that, that they are forced to deal with the situation is a completely another thing. So I think, Ajit Pawar would definitely would want to assert his claim on the post of the chief minister.
All right. And on that note, I have a bite from Aditya Thackeray. Let's listen in.
पहिली बाजू म्हणजे हीच आहे की परवाकडे पहिल्यांदा असं मी ऐकतोय की अध्यक्ष महोदय स्वतः जाऊन मुख्यमंत्र्यांना वर्षा बंगल्यावर भेटतात. म्हणजे न्यायमूर्ती आरोपींना भेटण्यासारखं झालेलं आहे. पण कुठचे संविधान पाळत आहेत अध्यक्ष महोदय ह्याच्यावर आहे. जर देशाच्या संविधानाप्रमाणे गेलं, जर डॉक्टर बाबासाहेब आंबेडकरांनी जे संविधान लिहिलंय त्याप्रमाणे गेलं तर 40 गद्दार हे बाद झाले पाहिजेत. जर निकाल वेगळा आला.
All right. Ajayant, please complete what you were saying.
So in this situation, the chances of Ajit Pawar, I mean, that grows more of taking over as the chief minister. Maybe he's at the age of 62, maybe he's the last hurrah to be the chief minister. As he was saying, he was denied the coveted post since 2004, that is nearly 20 years. He was denied by his uncle. So he may get last hurrah only for 9 months, and he will be happy for that, because even Sharad Pawar got the chief ministership only for 18 months during his first tenure. So that may be the calculation. Now the real point is this, everything lies, I'm not saying in the hands of BJP, I'm not saying, I will say directly, everything lies in the hands of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. I'm sorry to say this, but if at all, Mr. Narendra Modi, I mean, whatever the verdict comes, if it is accepted, okay, the verdict has come against Eknath Shinde, which I say legally it should come. I agree with what Aditya said. If you are following Babasaheb Ambedkar's constitution, the 16 are first removed. So take action on that 16, and then also remove remaining 24. So all 40 you remove. So then remain only 248. So that is what Mr. Aditya Thackeray said. I agree with that. If you follow this, then actually 1.5 years should not have gone. This decision could have been taken even earlier by Narahari Jhirwal. Now there is no point that there was because I know the dates, that there was a impending this thing against Mr. Jhirwal also. No, it came later. First the notice was served, and then the notice went against Narahari Jhirwal. So if at all you have to follow the constitution, the decision has to go first against Eknath Shinde, and if the decision goes against Eknath Shinde, whether BJP is willing or not, and this is particular, they need to accept Ajit Pawar as the leader. It is because apart from the commitment, there is another angle that Mr. Ajit Pawar has been given the task unofficially that you must defeat Supriya Pawar from Baramati, and BJP candidates should get elected, because BJP's game plan is to finish both regional parties, that is Shiv Sena, Thackeray, and even NCP Sharad Pawar, to completely finish their base, their grassroots of their patriarchs from Maharashtra. While they are close, they did with Uddhav Thackeray, now they are trying to finish up even Sharad Pawar from Baramati. And let me tell you, if at all Supriya Pawar gets defeated, because she could win in 2014 just by 70,000 votes. If she gets defeated by Ajit Pawar, as per the media reports and everything is going on in Maharashtra, that Sunetra Pawar, wife of Ajit Pawar, may contest from Baramati. If it happens like that, that will be the biggest blow to the Maratha strongman senior.
All right.
And
okay.
that is the task given to Ajit Pawar, and for that, he may be, after Eknath Shinde's any decision, BJP may think of gambling. But again, I have already said, it is in the hands of only one person, that is Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
Very interesting indeed. Rennie Abraham, I want to come to you. In the scenario of now, let's look at Uddhav Thackeray. you know, if he's disqualified, the thing is that experts feel that he's already garnered a lot of sympathy from people. It will be as if, you know, that, oh God, listen, everything went against me, everyone is against me, there is a bias, blah, 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 which actually works very well perhaps in the assembly elections for him, and also going forward, you know, for the general elections, which the BJP is not going to like very much. Do you agree with that, or you think that's not going to happen at all?
Absolutely. In fact, the first priority for all parties concerned, I mean political parties concerned, is the ensuing Lok Sabha, you know, the general elections that is due in April. And now all these posturings we are seeing is going to cease come March, when the election code of conduct will come into force across the country. So these are the, you know, this is the last lap, so to speak, till the code of conduct is in place in March, for all these political formations to exploit what they can. And you are very correct in saying that the Shiv Sena is going to be leveraging the public sympathy that accrues to them on the perceived manner in which their government was, you know, taken down from power. Now, you are also noticing, as I pointed out earlier, that with the traditional vote bank of the Shiv Sena firmly behind the Uddhav Balasaheb Thackeray faction, considering the, you know, perceived manner in which they were wrongfully removed from power, Uddhav Thackeray has gone ahead. And now, like I mentioned about the Kalaram temple, his effort is to also galvanize the Dalit vote bank to become conducive to his political prospects. And please add to this the huge Muslim vote base. You know, thanks to the alliance with the Congress and NCP, the Muslim vote bank of Maharashtra has also strongly and in fact officially announced that they are behind the Uddhav Thackeray faction. So Uddhav Thackeray is actually, you know, able to get these three huge components politically, exploiting the sympathy wave, and he believes the moment elections are held, they are, I mean, you already see Aditya Thackeray posturing like the possible next chief minister of Maharashtra, if you can read between the lines. So there you are. You are absolutely right on what you said about how Uddhav Thackeray is leveraging this current situation politically.
All right, and let me now turn to Ashok. Ashok, you know, there are two aspects here to the entire verdict which we are all awaiting right now. One is propriety and the other is numbers. You know, so between the two, how do you look at it? Aren't numbers also extremely important for anybody to sail through?
Well, that's a very interesting question, Sudha, because what the speaker, what are the factors which the speaker will keep in mind, or what is the test that the speaker is going to apply while deciding these disqualification petitions. So, if you look at in fact, you know, it's a very strange situation that here the speaker will actually have to get into the controversy first. How did this split happen? How did these MLAs move away from the so-called parent party, which now has been left as an orphan? Why did it happen? How did it happen? The subsequent events that played out. What are the numbers subsequent to the events which were played out? Who was the chief whip? Whether the chief whip who exercised the power, was he legally entitled to do so? And on these multitude of factors, the speaker will have to decide. There is not one single test that he'll have to apply. He just cannot say that, oh, considering that Shinde faction enjoys the support of larger numerical strength or the larger number of MLAs, that's why I believe they were rightly placed not to follow the whip given by Uddhav Thackeray faction and hence not disqualified. That cannot be the sole factor. In fact, the Supreme Court in its verdict has said
absolutely this was
that look, you will have to take a multitude of factors, and what kind of test you are going to apply, you are the best person suited to design that test. But that cannot be a singular test. It can't be one factor on which you decide that, the tables are going to turn on this one factor. No, there will be multitude of factors which will play out in determining. But that is an ideal situation, Sudha. At the end of the day, we don't know what the speaker is going to do. The speaker is entitled to say that I don't agree with what the Supreme Court has said. In my wisdom, I think this is the most potent reason to recognize Eknath Shinde faction as the Shiv Sena party, and they had the right to issue a whip, and these people of the Uddhav Thackeray faction did not follow the whip which was issued by the Shinde faction, and hence they stand disqualified. So these are things which will play out.
All right.
It's still very complex.
All right. And now let me okay, I'm supposed to take a break. I've just been told I was going to Jayant. Jayant, I'm going to come back to you. Let me take a break now. So break time, but don't go away. We shall discuss this story perhaps for more than an hour starting now.
How do you fulfill that promise? Because ultimately expectations have to be met.
What certainly comes across is the lack of political will.
If you look at the political landscape, is it really changing for women, or the women reservation will need to be the needful?
Without any reservation, the women can fight.
And the gang issue is at the heart of it. And what is the inability of the forces that dead bodies surface, but not the living people?
Mr. Stark became the costliest player in the history of the IPL. A defiant performance by Ten Hag's men, keeping Liverpool quiet to earn a goalless draw.
Sri Lanka don't have any chance. There's another way to win here. I think it's too late in the day.
I wonder how that will happen, given he is among the richest sportspersons on this planet at the moment.
How the game is evolving, and I think that's really important.
Go all guns blazing into this journey now.
Now standing at 7 feet 4 inches, Satnam Singh is making his way into professional wrestling.
I did my best, but now I have to change my life. I hope so. We are getting more good news for India in 2024.
Nobody would have expected this.
Bangalore traffic is an example of something that has gone wrong with our system.
We have more than 50 flyovers in Bangalore city. If flyover is a solution to traffic problem, Bangalore should not have traffic problem.
According to TomTom Traffic Index 2022, Bangalore is ranked as the second worst city in the world when it comes to traffic.
The speed limit at the ORR is 80 kilometers per hour, but our vehicle has only moved 10 kilometers per hour.
What Bangalore needs is a surgery, but what we have been offered repeatedly are band-aids.
Only on the world's first news OTT. News9 Plus, ahead of the curve.
Ram's Ayodhya rebuilt. Ram Lala's Pran Pratishtha. Countdown to January 22nd. Dateline Ayodhya. Catch the mega coverage only on News9 Live.
Welcome back. That's exactly what we are discussing today. That on your wall, the Sena versus Sena verdict in Maharashtra. For those who've just joined us, a brief introduction of what is on the anvil as we go forward. Big day in Maharashtra politics. Assembly Speaker Rahul Narwekar is all set to deliver his verdict regarding cross-petitions filed by warring factions within the Shiv Sena. And meanwhile, news coming in that the security has been beefed up in front of Chief Minister Shinde's home. For that, let me now go to my colleague Kiran Tare, who has all the details. Kiran, tell us something. I mean, a lot of hectic activity we've been told, and also security is being beefed up.
Yes, of course, there are lots of activities going on here in Vidhan Bhavan.
Ji.
And I'm told that around 5:30, the decision will be out. So everybody is waiting here. We can see some police officers coming here, some ministers, and Shiv Sena supporters, Eknath Shinde supporters in particularly. They are here in the Vidhan Bhavan for hearing. But the most interesting part is that everybody wants to know what will happen to the political uncertainty in Maharashtra. When I'm saying uncertainty, the uncertainty is about the fate of Eknath Shinde. If he's getting a new lease of life, if he has to step down, whatever is the decision, you have to wait for half an hour more. But one thing is very sure, the political atmosphere in the state has been completely charged up. People are waiting, eagerly waiting to the verdict. And of course, Eknath Shinde is not in Mumbai. We must tell our viewers that he is not in Mumbai. He has been conducting all his routine programs. He is away in Yavatmal in Vidarbha region. He's coming back to Mumbai late in the night. Rahul Narwekar, the Assembly Speaker, he has said that the decision will be revolutionary and it will be a path-breaking decision. So the thing is that now he's going to decide the fate of Eknath Shinde, but it's not going to fate of Eknath Shinde himself. It's going to decide the fate of Uddhav Thackeray as well. Whatever decision is coming out, of course, there is a complete silence, pin of silence among the supporters of Uddhav Thackeray. I tried to speak to one of them. He said that they will wait for the decision and they will take a future course of action. Of course, that will be another legal battle in the Supreme Court. They have already planned to approach the Supreme Court, whatever the decision comes up around half an hour.
All right. And on that note, I'm going to come back to you, Kiran. Thanks for now. But like I said, I'll come back to you. And meanwhile, let's listen to what Eknath Shinde said a little while ago.
4 बजे के बाद मैं अधिकृत बात करूंगा, लेकिन मैं इतना ही कहूंगा कि हमारे पास मेजॉरिटी है विधानसभा में 67%, लोकसभा में 75%, हमारे पास 13 सांसद है और हमारे पास 50 विधायक है और इसी के बलबूते पर मेजॉरिटी पर चुनाव आयोग ने हमें ओरिजिनल पार्टी शिवसेना पार्टी करके रिकॉग्नाइज किया है। धनुष्यबाण है जो सिंबल, वो हमें रिकॉग्नाइज किया है, वो दिया हुआ है। और इसलिए मैं चाहता हूं कि स्पीकर महोदय जी भी मेरिट पर हमारे को निकाल देंगे। जो रिजल्ट होगा वो मेरिट पे होना चाहिए और मेरिट पे हम लोग शिवसेना है, हम लोग सिंबल धनुष्यबाण है। और हमारे जो शपथ विधि हुआ था, कुछ लोग हमें घटना बाह्य कहते हैं, घटना बाह्य सरकार कहते हैं और बोले आज गिरेगा, कल गिरेगा, परसों गिरेगा, ऐसे बोलते बोलते अभी 1.5 साल हो गए हैं। अभी बाद में कहते हैं मुख्यमंत्री बदलेगा, लेकिन ये सरकार हमारे मजबूती से काम कर रही है, इसलिए उनके पैरों तले जमीन खिसक गई है। वो बेचैन हो गए हैं और अभी उनको सामने दिख रहा है उनकी हार, इसलिए ये गलत सलत आरोप लगाते हैं।
समय पे बीच में बात करते थे, ये भी पूरी दुनिया को पता चलता था ना। अध्यक्ष अगर ये नियंत्रित करते थे सवाल कौन से पूछे जाए, कौन से पूछे न जाए, तो ये तुम्हारा काम नहीं है ना। आप कुछ लोगों से मिलने गए, हमको कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, लेकिन जो गरिमा है उस पद की, उसको तो पूरा नीचे लाया ना आपने।
All right. Let me get Jayant Menkar on the screen, and as well as Rennie Abraham. You know, let's go back a little into history, I mean recent history as it were, to put things in perspective. You know, not that our viewers do not know what really transpired, but according to you, Jayant, when did the break come between Eknath Shinde, who was such a loyalist of Balasaheb Thackeray, and also later his son? He was somebody who was part of the inner coterie. What was the moment when it snapped for him?
Actually, to say that he was very much close is something I don't accept, because in 2017, when Devendra Fadnavis was the chief minister, and there was a move to make someone as the deputy chief minister, and immediately Uddhav Thackeray was close to name his close loyalist Subhash Desai. So that time, Mr. Eknath Shinde went with 22 legislatures to Matoshri just to say that, look, I got the support of 22 legislatures. So if at all anyone from Shiv Sena is going to become the deputy chief minister, it's only me. And Uddhav Thackeray shelved the plan to make someone as deputy chief minister. The time came, Mr. Eknath Shinde was given due respect, due post and everything. But now enters BJP. BJP, which was extremely hurt, rather its all game plan was hurt by the demand of Uddhav Thackeray, who simply said, give me 2.5 years and I will give you 2.5 years. That there, actually the tussle started between BJP and Uddhav Thackeray, and at that moment, even BJP decided no stone will be left unturned to defeat Uddhav Thackeray or to finish Uddhav Thackeray. And to finish that, to finish any person from any party, you know, try to woo someone from his own party. And that's the simple game plan BJP did. And they got another Eknath Shinde, who at that time worked with 22 legislators to Uddhav Thackeray. Let me tell you that I should be the deputy chief minister. This time worked with 40 legislatures. That's the only difference. But his clout continued. Now the dilemma as the constitutional and as which I am stressing, that first 16 were removed. Should that be considered, or should latter 40 should be considered? So according to constitution, I feel 16 were removed by the party whip should be considered at first. So actually the tug of war between Eknath Shinde and Uddhav Thackeray started over the issue of who should be the chief minister or who should be the deputy chief minister.
Okay. Rennie, I saw you raising your hand. Please go ahead if you want to retort or respond to what Jayant said just now.
Yes, ma'am. I would like to take issue with what Jayant has said, obviously based on my understanding and the way I've been tracking Maharashtra's politics. So, to answer your question, on the same point that Jayant was making, the fact of the matter is that the Shiv Sena and the BJP, after having broken up their alliance, I mean from the BJP end in 2014 for the state assembly elections, subsequent to the elections came back to power. Now, when they did that, the BJP had 122 MLAs and the Shiv Sena, which never was able to cross 60 MLAs. Rather, the late Supremo of Shiv Sena, Balasaheb, used to keep saying he at least once crossed the 60 mark, of his MLAs. That happened for the first time in 2014 when the BJP and Shiv Sena fought against each other separately, the assembly elections. And the Shiv Sena was able to get 63 MLAs elected. So the Uddhav Thackeray had proved his, political credentials at that time. Having said that, the next 5 years in governance with the Shiv Sena and BJP in alliance saw that Eknath Shinde had, formed brilliant relations with the Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis of the BJP, which came in very handy for the BJP in 19, when Uddhav Thackeray preferred to go and form a coalition government with the Congress and NCP, which came to be known as the Mahavikas Agadi. So from that point, as my sources used to tell me, even in those early days of the 2019 MVA government, that Eknath Shinde and a motley crew of 15 to 20 MLAs were willing to immediately jump over. However, the BJP counseled them that coming with merely 15 MLAs will not work for us because we have, in 19, unlike in 14, the BJP did not have 122 MLAs,
right.
they only had 105.
Okay.
So therefore, the numbers did not add up. If Eknath Shinde and 15 had defected at the time, so they told them to hold council because they couldn't form government. And over the next 2.5 years of the MVA government, that is what they did. Meanwhile, rustling up their numbers from the 15 MLAs that Shinde had to 40 MLAs and 10 independents. So that is what how the whole thing played out, is in my opinion, please.
All right. I want to ask this to both of my colleagues. Brijesh, to you first, and of course, Ashok, you also weigh in, the impropriety, as it were, of it. The most famous thing when you read the timeline is when Sunil Prabhu sent out,
Okay, sorry, Sudha, I have to interrupt you. We've just seen that the Maharashtra Assembly has convened and the Speaker has walked into the House and is about to take his chair. He's taken his chair and he is going to pronounce the verdict on the issue.
Anytime.
Yeah, he's there on the screen.
All right. The Speaker is now getting ready to pronounce the verdict. On your screens right now, Rahul Narwekar, all of us are waiting for him to speak out. Maybe a watershed moment in Maharashtra politics, but right now you see on your screen Rahul Narwekar, who is now very soon going to pronounce the verdict.
Under 21A, group number 4 consists of petition number 19, again filed by legislator belonging to the UBT faction. Under 21B, challenging the defiance of whip with regards to the Speaker's election. Group number 6 consists of petition number 21, again filed by legislator belonging to the UBT faction under 21B with regards to defiance of whip for the confidence motion. Group number 5 consists of petition number 22 to 24, which has been filed by legislator belonging to the Shinde faction under 21A and 21B. Group 2 consists of petition number 17, which has been filed against certain independents and members belonging to other parties under 2 subclause 2. So we shall, before I proceed with the judgment, pronouncement of the order, I would like to express my sincere gratitude towards the Honorable Supreme Court of India, which has provided an extremely guiding force by way of its order, whereby they have given a direction to the whole adjudication of the issues being decided in the proceedings today. Therefore, I would at the outset express my gratitude towards the Apex Court. At the same time, I would like to express acknowledgement and a big thank you to the staff of the state legislature who have assisted me and the paralegal assistance which I have received from them during the course of the conduct of these proceedings pertaining to disqualification. I would also like to appreciate the cooperation which I have got from counsels appearing on both the sides, and I shall now proceed with the pronouncement of the order. As we are aware that there are certain preliminary issues which are applicable to all the 5 groups out of the 6 groups. And therefore, I shall first commence with my ruling on the preliminary issues which concern all the 5 groups. Thereafter, I shall pronounce the operative part of the orders concerning each group and the relevant and important paragraphs pertaining to each group. So we shall commence with group number 1. Preliminary issues. The Honorable Subhash Desai Supra versus the Governor of Maharashtra, hereinafter referred to as Subhash Desai, was pleased to direct that the Speaker should prima facie determine who the real political party is for the purpose of adjudicating disqualification petitions if 2 or more factions claim to be that political party, and accordingly shall recognize the whip and the leader who were duly authorized by the Shiv Sena political party, keeping with the principles discussed in the said judgment. Hence, keeping in view the factual matrix and the directions of the Honorable Supreme Court, I will prima facie determine who the political party is for the purpose of adjudicating disqualification petitions if 2 or more factions claim to be that political party, and accordingly recognize the whip and the leader who are duly authorized by Shiv Sena political party. Keeping in mind principles discussed in Subhash Desai Supra, it is necessary to consider and determine the said preliminary issue before examining the merits and deciding whether respondents have incurred disqualification under the 10th schedule of the Constitution of India. Thus, the preliminary issue that arises for my consideration before delving into the merits of disqualification petitions under the 10th schedule is, which among the 2 fractions disqualification petition? The other issue framed for my consideration in this group of disqualification petition is whether the respondents have incurred disqualification in terms of paragraph 21A of the 10th schedule of the Constitution of India on account of their alleged acts and conduct. Paragraph 84 deals with the principles which have been laid down by the Honorable Supreme Court. I am not going to read out those are a part of my order. I'll come to paragraph number 85 now. Thus, what emerges from the principles laid down by the Honorable Apex Court in that the question of who the real political party is has to be considered and determined after giving due weightage to 1. the Constitution of Shiv Sena, 2. the leadership structure of the party, and 3. the legislative majority if 2 or more factions claim to be real political party. The question of who the real political party is hereinafter referred to as the preliminary issue. Since in these proceedings both in the previous paragraphs I have recorded the submissions made by both the parties. I will come down to my observations and conclusions with regards to the preliminary issues. As stated earlier, the decision of the preliminary issue has to be taken after careful analysis of the Constitution of Shiv Sena, the leadership structure of the party, and the legislative party majority. After having heard both sides on the above aspect, I now propose to proceed to record my observations and finding on the preliminary issue. As is evident from the submissions of the parties, there is no consensus on the Constitution submitted to the Election Commission of India with consent of both the factions. Likewise, the parties have different point of view on the leadership structure, which has to be taken into consideration. The only aspect which is undisputed is the majority in the legislature party. Hence, to embark upon the finding on the preliminary issue, I will have to decide the relevant constitution which has to be taken into account, 2. the leadership structure which existed before the dispute arose. Further, it will also have to be determined as to when the rival factions emerged. petitioner's assertion that the constitution of the year 2018 is the relevant constitution which has to be taken into account for the purpose of determining the preliminary issue is based on the submission that 1. The 2018 constitution has to be considered as both the parties have relied upon the 2018 amended constitution and acted thereupon. 2. The Election Commission in its order dated 17/2/2023 in dispute case number 1 of 2022 has held that both the parties were aware of the 2018 amendment and thus the said constitution of 2018 has to be taken as the constitution which is done with the consent of both the factions, as the said constitution of 2018 was never disputed prior to the initiation of these disqualification petitions and the same was never challenged. 3. Respondents have themselves admitted and relied on the said constitution of 2018. And 4. The statement of Sri Yogesh Kadam that the filing of 2018 constitution along with the respondent's reply was a mistake done by the lawyers cannot be accepted, as the said statement is an afterthought and done only with the intention to mitigate the damaging statements made by Sri Dilip Lande. To the contrary, respondents have asserted that the constitution of the year 1999 has to be the one which has to be borne in mind, as according to the respondents, the constitution of the year 2018 was never submitted to the ECI. Respondents pointed out to the letter dated 4th April 2018 by way of which the petitioner based their claims of submissions of the said constitution to the ECI. By pointing out to the same, respondents submitted that both the said letters do not mention anything about the purported amendments to the constitution or submission of the same thereof to the ECI. A similar claim was made with respect to the letter dated 27/2/2018 by Shri Uddhav Thackeray in the special leave petition number 3997 of 2022. However, in the said SLP, there was no mention about the existence of any such letter dated 4th April 2018. The word submitted appearing in paragraph 168 of Subhash Desai means submitted before the ECI, as is evident from the further part of the said paragraph, which the petitioner has conveniently ignored. The respondents have further submitted that 2018 constitution has been wrongly annexed as a document. The stand of the respondent on the 2018 constitution has always been that it is unconstitutional and was secretly manufactured by Shri Uddhav Thackeray in cahoots with Mr. Anil Desai. This stand has been specifically taken in the reply filed by Shri Eknath Shinde before the Honorable Supreme Court in SLP number 3997 of 2023, way back on 16/3/2023, much before filing of the replies before the Speaker in August 2023. Further, even the additional replies filed on 25/10/2023 in the present proceedings, the aforesaid petition has been reiterated by the respondents. After having considered the submissions advanced by both the parties on the question as to which is the relevant constitution for the purpose of determination of the preliminary issue, I have come to the following conclusion. A. As per the Honorable Apex Court, if both the factions have submitted different versions of the constitution of the party, then in that case, what has to be taken into account is the constitution which was submitted to the ECI with the consent of both parties before the rival factions emerged. Before recording further conclusions, I find it imperative to reiterate that pursuant to the initiation of these disqualifications, the Maharashtra Legislature Secretariat had vide letter dated 7 June 2023 requested the Office of the Election Commission of India to provide a copy of the party constitution / memorandum / rules and regulations disqualifications. The Maharashtra Legislature Secretariat had vide letter dated 7 June 2023 requested the Office of the Election Commission of India to provide a copy of the party constitution / memorandum / rules and regulations 2023 provided a copy of the Constitution and rules of Shiv Sena as available on the record of Election Commission of India. Further, with respect to amendments, if any, to the said constitution of the party, the Election Commission requested the Legislature Secretariat to refer to the order dated 17 February 2023 passed by the ECI in dispute case number 1 of 2022. Having perused the same, it has to be noted that the copy of the Constitution of Shiv Sena provided by the ECI does not bear any date or year, but as per the ECI, that which is provided vide the reply is the only Constitution of Shiv Sena available on the record of the ECI. Further, with respect to the amendments, if any, to the said Constitution, the Election Commission, vide its order dated 17 February 2023, has held in paragraph 132 4b that the amended Constitution of 2018 is not on the record of the Commission. Thus, the petitioner's submission that the Constitution of the year 2018 has to be taken into account cannot be accepted, as I am bound to follow the directions of the Honorable Apex Court in Subhash Desai Supra, and accordingly take into account the Constitution which the Election Commission has provided. In my jurisdiction under the 10th schedule of the Constitution of India, I cannot delve into any other factor while deciding which is the relevant Constitution. As prima facie, it is evident from the records of the ACI that the 1999 Constitution is the one which was submitted to the ECI by the Shiv Sena before rival factions emerged. Further, it is also necessary to mention that the petitioner's submission that the Constitution of the year 2018 was submitted to the ECI by referring to the letter dated 4th April 2018 cannot be accepted. A bare perusal of the said letter dated 4th April 2018, by way of which the petitioner based their claim of submission of the said Constitution to the ECI, does not bear any content which shows that an amended Constitution was submitted to the ECI. The said letter only refers to the election held and the results thereof, and nothing more. Further, on closer examination of the special leave petition filed by Mr. Uddhav Thackeray before the Honorable Supreme Court, challenging the ECI decision SLP number 3997 of 2022, I find that exactly same claim has been made about the letter dated 27/2/2018, and there is no mention about the new letter of 4th April 2018. Accordingly, said letter of 2/7/2018 is on the website of the Election Commission of India. However, there is no document relating to the Constitution annexed to it. Hence, on this ground also, petitioner's submission that the Constitution of the year 2018 has to be taken into account cannot be accepted. Petitioner's submission that submitted before the Speaker, petitioner's submission that into inverted submitted before the Speaker would mean into inverted annexed by the petitioner and the respondents in their respective petitions and replies thereto cannot be accepted, as there is a clear provision under the 1986 rule where the leader has to submit the party constitution. Rule 3 subclause 1 subclause B of 1986 rule mandates that the leader into inverted shall furnish into inverted a copy of the rules and regulations, whether known as such or as constitution or any other name, of the political party concerned. Further, Rule 3 subclause 4 contemplates that whenever any change takes place in the information furnished by the leader of the legislature party under Rule 3 subclause 1, he shall as soon as may be thereafter, and in any case within 30 days from the date on which such change has taken place, or within such further period as the Speaker may for sufficient cause allow, furnish in writing information to the Speaker with respect to such change. Thus, the submission of Constitution before the Speaker has to mean submission under Rule 3 of 1986 rules. However, till date, Shiv Sena has not submitted any constitution on the record of the speakers of the speaker under the said Rule 3. In view of the above observations and finding, I need not further analyze any other submission in this regard made by the parties, and I hold that the Constitution of Shiv Sena provided by Election Commission of India, VDA, letter dated 22nd June 2023, is the relevant Constitution of Shiv Sena for determination of the preliminary issue as to which faction is the real political party. Constitution of Shiv Sena held to be the relevant constitution is hereinafter referred to as the SS Constitution. The leadership structure relevant for the determination. Learned Senior Advocate Mr. Kamath's submission that the leadership structure which is relevant for the purpose of deciding the preliminary issue is the leadership structure which is reflected in the communication dated 27 February 2018 and 4th April 2018 made to the Election Commission of India pursuant to the elections held on 23rd January 2018 is based on the petitioner's submission recorded in paragraph 89A to G herein above. Initially, the petitioner relied on the affidavit submitted to the ECI of the then office bearers of Shiv Sena produced along with the affidavit in lieu of examination of chief to show that Shri Uddhav Thackeray had support of the majority in the organization. Respondents objected to such production on the ground that it is not permissible to produce affidavits of others along with petitioner's own affidavit in lieu of chief examination without the author of the said affidavits subjecting themselves to cross-examination. In any event, during the arguments, Mr. Kamath did not rely on these affidavits and limited his submissions to the 2018 leadership structure as available on the ECI website. Mr. Jethmalani, in turn, focused his submission to buttress the ground that the said leadership structure of 2018 cannot be considered and relied upon for the purpose of determining the preliminary issue, as the said leadership structure is not in conformity with the Constitution of Shiv Sena, which is on record of the ECI, and thus the same would be contrary to the findings of the Honorable Supreme Court in paragraph 168 of Subhash Desai. Mr. Jethmalani further relied on the legislative party leadership to submit that the legislative party also forms part of the leadership structure, as it is not only mentioned in the SS Constitution, but there is no dispute regarding the said members being part of the Pratinidhi Sabha under the SS Constitution. After having considered the submissions advanced by both the parties on the question as to which is the relevant leadership structure for the purpose of determination of the preliminary issue, I have come to the following conclusion. The submission of Mr. Kamath, the jurisdiction under the 10th schedule, only mandates a prima facie adjudication as to what the leadership structure of the political party was at the relevant time, and it does not extend to an inquiry as to whether or not the leadership structure available on the record of the ECI was pursuant to a validly held election is a correct position, and hence I concur with the same. Petitioner's submission that in these proceedings the respondents cannot challenge the organizational election results available on the record of the ECI, as the 10th schedule does not permit the raising of any such defense, is a correct position, and hence I am in agreement with the same. Respondent submission that the leadership structure of 2018 cannot be considered and relied upon for the purpose of determining the preliminary issue, as the said leadership structure is not in conformity with the Constitution of Shiv Sena, which is on record of the ECI, does not arise at this juncture, as it is a submission which has to be considered while determining whether the said leadership structure can be relied upon for the purpose of determining which faction represents the real political party, which would be dealt with at the appropriate juncture. The only question which is to be determined in the current part of the order is what and who all constituted leadership structure of Shiv Sena at the relevant time. Respondents have led detailed evidence, and despite being confronted during cross-examinations, they have been able to demonstrate that no organizational elections were held on 23/1/2018. On the contrary, in the affidavit, in lieu of examination of Chief of Shri Sunil Prabhu, PW1, has stated that organizational elections were held on 23/1/2013 and 23/1/2018. However, Shri Sunil Prabhu has not claimed any personal knowledge of the same or without and whether he was present during the said elections. During his cross-examination, he was confronted with the letter dated 28/1/2013. Thereafter, a specific question was posed to him by Mr. Jethmalani as to whether he voted in the said election, to which he responded in the affirmative. The contents of the said letter clearly stated that all the candidates were declared unopposed. The contradiction was also put to the witness by Mr. Jethmalani in cross-examination. However, no justification for the same was put forth by the witness. In view of the above evidence and records before me, prima facie indicate that no elections were held in the year 2013 as well as in the year 2018. However, I, as the Speaker, exercising jurisdiction under the 10th schedule, has a limited jurisdiction and cannot go beyond the record of the ECI as available on the website, and hence I have not considered this aspect while determining the relevant leadership structure. Thus, in view of the above conclusions, I find that the leadership structure of Shiv Sena reflected in the letter dated 27th February 2018 available on the website of the ECI is the relevant leadership structure which has to be taken into account for the purpose of determining which faction is the real political party. The question whether which faction is the real political party is discernible from this 2018 leadership structure is discussed in paragraph 112 to 131 infra of the present order. The leadership structure so determined as the relevant leadership structure for the purpose of these disqualification petitions are hereinafter referred to as the 2018 leadership structure. Since in these proceedings both the factions are claiming to be the real political party, rival factions have emerged in the Shiv Sena. In view of the fact that rival factions have emerged and both the factions are claiming to be the real political party, it is imperative to prima facie determine when did the rival factions emerge. Thus, it is necessary to determine the relevant day on which rival factions emerged before further venturing into which of the faction was the real political party when rival factions emerged. At the outset, I must set straight the point that the determination of the Speaker exercising jurisdiction under the 10th schedule while deciding who the real political party is mandates only a preliminary inquiry which has to be done prima facie by taking into account material officially before the Speaker as the Master of the Legislative Assembly. I shall consider the facts relevant for the determination on what is before me as the Speaker of the Legislative Assembly. As noted by the Honorable Supreme Court in Subhash Desai Supra, on 21st June 2022, there was no material available before the Deputy Speaker to infer the emergence of any rival faction. However, after taking on record the resolution dated 21st June 2022 passed by the SSLP, disputed by the respondents, the very next day, the then Deputy Speaker received a resolution disputed by the petitioner dated 21st June 2022, received by the then Deputy Speaker on 22nd June 2022, contrary to the resolution dated 21st June 2022. Thus, from this fact alone, it is evident that there emerged two factions of the Shiv Sena from 21st June 2022 itself, but the same came to be officially on record of the office of the Speaker and or Legislative Secretariat on 22nd June 2022. At this juncture, it is imperative to refer to paragraph 119 of Subhash Desai Supra, where the Honorable Apex Court, while discussing the legality of the recognition of leader and the whip of Shiv Sena, accorded by the letter dated 3rd July 2022, held that the Speaker ought to have taken into consideration the split that took place within the Shiv Sena, which were discernible from two sets of resolutions appointing two different leaders and whips placed on the record by Shiv Sena before the Legislature Secretariat. This paragraph into bracket 119 read with Honorable Apex Court's finding recorded by the Honorable Apex Court in paragraph 157 of Subhash Desai Supra makes it clear that the law laid down by the Honorable Supreme Court is that in view of the deletion of paragraph 3 of the 10th schedule, when rival factions emerge as a result of rift/split in the party, the Speaker has to necessarily find which faction is the real political party while recognizing leader and the whip of the party. Thus, in view of the facts recorded in the preceding paragraphs and keeping in view the principles enumerated by the Honorable Supreme Court in Subhash Desai Supra as recorded in paragraph 84 herein above, I have come to the following conclusion that the emergence of the two factions of Shiv Sena can be inferred from 21st June 2022 itself, and the same came to be a matter of official record of the office of the Speaker and of the Legislature Secretariat on 22nd June 2022. Conclusion: having decided the 1. relevant constitution of Shiv Sena, 2. leadership structure, and 3. the relevant point for the purpose of determining the preliminary issue, I have made the following analysis, observations and determinations on the preliminary issue of which faction was the real political party when two factions emerged. For the purpose of analyzing, discussing and determining the issue, the faction of the petitioner is hereinafter referred to as UBT faction, and likewise the respondent's faction is referred to as the Shinde faction. The applicability of the test of aims and objectives. I am not going into the details of reading the applicability of the test of aims and objectives, because as you are aware that in accordance with the directions of the Apex Court and otherwise, the Speaker is not required to get into the political thicket with regards to the aims and objectives of a political party. So I am restricting it to pronouncement, and you can have a look at it once you apply for the certified copy. The reason why Shiv Sena constitution assumes significance is to analyze whether the question of which faction is the real political party is discernible from the leadership structure identifiable from the said Shiv Sena constitution. So the Shiv Sena constitution is relevant to the extent of identifying the leadership structure. Leadership structure as a criteria to determine who was the real political party. As I have already held, which is the relevant constitution and the leadership structure of the Shiv Sena to be taken into account for deciding the preliminary issue, I now have to see whether the relevant leadership structure read with the SS constitution provides answers to the question which faction is the real political party and consequently determine the same. The UBT faction made, there are submissions made which have been recorded of both the sides, which are at paragraph 113 and 114 of my order. In view of the above recorded submissions of the parties, there emerges two further questions: whether 2018 leadership structure is in conformity with the constitution of Shiv Sena. Number 2, whether will all the Paksha whether will of the Paksha Pramukh and or majority leaders in the 2018 leadership structure could be said to be synonymous with the will of the political party. So we further have to derive get answers to two more questions. The primary one being whether 2018 leadership structure is in conformity as provided by the Constitution, and number two, whether the will of the Paksha Pramukh and or majority of the leaders reflects the will of the political party. As there are contrasting submissions on the question, it is necessary to peruse the SS Constitution and the 2018 leadership structure and then record a finding as to whether the 2018 leadership structure is in conformity with the Constitution of the Shiv Sena. Thus, I have taken a comparative look at the 2018 leadership structure and the SS Constitution and have arrived at the following observations and conclusions. A. 2018 leadership structure mentions Shiv Sena Paksha Pramukh into bracket President as the highest office of the SSPP. However, in the SS Constitution, the highest office of the Shiv Sena political party is Shiv Sena Pramukh, but the said Constitution distinguishes highest office and the highest authority and provides that Rashtriya Karyakarni is the highest authority whose decision shall be final. Shiv Sena SS Constitution provides that the members of the Rashtriya Karyakarni shall be called as Shiv Sena leaders and provides for a total number of 19 members, out of which 14 are to be elected by the Pratinidhi Sabha and the rest of the 5 members are to be appointed by Shiv Sena Pramukh. However, the 2018 leader structure envisages only 13 members in the Rashtriya Karyakarni, out of which 19 are to be elected and the remaining 4 are to be appointed. SS Constitution provides for a total number of 21 deputy leaders, out of which 17 are to be elected by the Pratinidhi Sabha and the rest of the 4 members are to be appointed by Shiv Sena Pramukh. However, the 2018 leaders structure envisages 33 deputy leaders, out of which 21 are to be elected and the remaining 12 are to be appointed. The 2018 leadership structure provides for 3 categories of office bearers, vis-a-vis Secretary, Samanvayak and Sanghatak. However, the Constitution of Shiv Sena provides for 3 categories of office bearers, vis-a-vis President, Sar Chitnis, General Secretary, Koshadhyaksha, Treasurer. From the observation recorded in the preceding paragraphs, it is evident that the 2018 leadership structure is not at all in conformity with the Constitution of Shiv Sena. In view of this finding alone, it could very well be concluded that the 2018 leadership structure, which is not in conformity with the Constitution of Shiv Sena, cannot be taken as the yardstick to determine which faction was the real political party at the relevant point of time. In view of the same, I have come to the conclusion that the 2018 leadership structure read with the SS Constitution does not provide a reliable outcome and or answer the question which faction is the real political party and hence cannot be relied upon to determine the said preliminary issue. Nevertheless, I am inclined to look at the second question regarding paragraph 115 here and above, where will of the Paksha Pramukh and or majority leaders in the 2018 leadership structure could be said to be synonymous with the will of the political party, so as to not leave any stone unturned in arriving at a decision. The determination of this question arises out of the alternate submissions made by the UBT faction that the 2018 leadership structure has to be taken ex facie and the determination of which faction was the real political party has to be solely based on the said leadership structure without a comparison of the said structure with the leadership structure provided for in the Constitution of the Shiv Sena. The said proposition would run counter to the principles laid down by the Honorable Apex Court in Subhash Desai Supra, where it was specifically provided that the leadership structure which has to be taken into consideration while determining the real political party has to be identifiable by the relevant constitution. Thus, although in the light of my finding on the preceding question, the aspect need not be looked into, however, I intend to look into the said aspect any which way, considering the gravity and importance of the dispute. Hence, following are my observations, findings and conclusions on the said aspect. UBT faction has submitted that the decision of the Paksha Pramukh is synonymous with the will of the political party, and thus if there is a rift in the leadership structure, the decision of the Paksha Pramukh constitutes the will of the political party. This proposition is devoid of merit, as I do not find any substance to allow the same. The reason for the same are recorded herein below. The proposition perhaps would have been a valid point if the party president was the sole repository of the decision making with respect of the policy and administration of the party. For analyzing the said submissions, a perusal of the SS Constitution was made. The SS Constitution provided that Rashtriya Karyakarni shall be the highest authority of the party, and its decision in all matters concerning the party policy and party administration shall be final. It is also to be noted that the Paksha Pramukh is only a presiding member of the said highest authority in the party, and in no way is the sole repository of decision making in the party. Thus, in view of the same, the submission that the decision and or the will of the Paksha Pramukh is synonymous with the will of the political party cannot be accepted. It would be appropriate to note that the SS Constitution does not even have a post called Paksha Pramukh. However, it was argued by the UBT faction that the nomenclature difference in the 2018 leadership structure and the SS Constitution is not a relevant factor for the purpose of deciding the preliminary issue. Even though I have held in paragraph 117 that 2000 leadership structure is not at all in conformity with SS Constitution, I shall consider this submission. The Constitution of Shiv Sena provides for Shiv Sena Pramukh. The submission of the petitioner that Shiv Sena Pramukh mentioned in the SS Constitution is the same post of Shiv Sena Paksha Pramukh termed in the 2018 leadership structure. By relying on the powers of Shiv Sena Pramukh, it was argued by the UBT faction that he is the authority under the party constitution vested with the powers to remove any member of the party. Thus, it was further argued that an authority who is vested with such power of removal reflects the will of political party with respect to removal of members from and for anti-party activities. However, a complete reading of the said provision in the party constitution reveals that the said submission is factually wrong. The said provision in relation to the powers of Shiv Sena Pramukh clearly provides that such a power is not absolute, and it has to be exercised in consultation with the Rashtriya Karyakarni. Further, it has to be noted that such a power is only available to the Shiv Sena Pramukh for the purpose of removal of members mentioned in Article 8, Schedule B of the said Constitution. The said schedule does not deal with leaders of the party. Leaders of the party is given under Schedule A of the said article. Thus, Shiv Sena Pramukh does not have any power to remove any leader of the party. Thus, the submission of the petitioner that Shri Uddhav Thackeray, Vide, letter dated 30/6/2022, had removed Shri Eknath Shinde from the post of Shiv Sena leader cannot be accepted, as such power are not vested with the party president. Hence, on this ground also, the submission that the decision and or the will of the Paksha Pramukh is synonymous with the will of the political party cannot be accepted. If this proposition is accepted, then in a situation where the party president, who is also a legislator, itself defects, then he could simply escape the wrath of the 10th schedule by pleading that his decision is the will of the party. Further, if this proposition is to be accepted, it would mean that no member can ever voice concern against the party president, and the party president might possibly be able to seek disqualification against any member who questions his credibility. This would run contrary to the concept of intra-party dissent. In view of the clear and unequivocal finding of the Honorable Supreme Court at paragraph 183 to 190 of Subhash Desai, I will be falling foul of the judgment of the Honorable Supreme Court in Kyoto Holohan, wherein the constitutional validity of the 10th schedule was itself upheld on the grounds that it is not an anti-dissent law if this proposition is accepted. I shall now proceed to consider whether the will of the majority leaders in the 2018 leadership structure is synonymous with the will of the political party. An alternate submission was made that even if the Paksha Pramukh is not accepted as the repository of the will of the political party, the decision of the leadership structure has to be construed as synonymous with the will of the political party. This proposition is also devoid of merit, and I do not find any substance in it for following reasons. In a circumstance where there is no dispute amongst the leaders identifiable by the constitution of a political party, the proposition would have held water. However, the factual matrix of the present matter is different. This is a matter where there is a dispute within the leadership structure itself. It is to be noted that in the present matter, rival factions have emerged in the legislature party, political party, and thus inevitably amongst leaders of the party as well. Thus, it would not be wise to apply this proposition in the present matter. The existence of split stroke rift in the leadership structure is admitted by the petitioner and or the UBT faction, as can be inferred from the petitioner's affidavit in lieu of examination in chief of PW1, petitioner himself, that the leader of the UBT faction did not have the support of all the members of the 2018 leadership structure when rival factions emerged. Thus, the submission that the decision of the leadership structure has to be construed as synonymous with the will of the political party could have perhaps be applied in a situation where there is a dispute between some members of the party and the elected leadership. In such a case, the leadership of the party could have possibly taken the stand that their decision would have to be taken as the decision and will of the political party until they are so removed from the leadership structure by a mechanism recognized by the constitution of the said political party. However, as I have noted earlier, in the present matter, rival claims have emerged wherein the leadership structure about the leadership within the leadership structure about the leadership itself. In such a situation, one leader's contention that his will is the will of the political party would be contradiction in terms. Thus, when there is a vertical rift in the party and two factions within the said leadership structure emerge as a result of the said rift, leaders of either faction, both Shri Uddhav Thackeray and Shri Eknath Shinde, could equally claim to represent the will of the political party. In that case, it would not be appropriate to take their decision as the decision that carries the will and wish of the political party when the question of which faction is the political party is being considered. There possibly lies one more aspect which could be considered. Does the stand-stroke decision of the majority members of the leaders within the leadership structure, identifiable and appointed according to the constitution of the political party, could be
construed as the will and desire of the political party in the event there is a dispute within the leadership structure. For the purpose of answering this question, one must look into the constitution of the political party. In an event where the party constitution provides for a mechanism to resolve a conflict of decision within the leadership structure, then in that case it would have been a guiding factor. However, if the party constitution does not provide for such a mechanism, then in that case it would not be appropriate to say that the decision of the majority leaders would have to be accepted as the one which conveys the will of the political party. This aspect need not be further considered in view of the fact that in any case UBT faction has not placed any material on record or even suggest that any meeting of the Rashtriya Karyakarni was called for where any decision in relation to the real political party was resolved so as to identify the leaders and or the whip who carried the will of the political party. Thus, in the absence of any such material, including any majority decision of the Rashtriya Karyakarni in relation to the real political party, identifying the leader and or the whip who carried the will of the political party would be an impossible task. Any conclusion reached would be without basis in law and evidence of fact. The submission that the UBT faction shall be taken as a real political party is entirely based on the conjuncture that if there will be a decision taken in relation to the political party by Rashtriya Karyakarni, then UBT faction would have had the majority. At this juncture, the petitioner's claim about a meeting purportedly held on 25th June 2022 has to be dealt with. It is the petitioner's case that Rashtriya Karyakarni meeting was held on 25th June 2022 and certain resolutions were passed. In support of this case, petitioner has produced certain resolutions of 25th June 2022. Those documents are disputed by respondents. Mr. Jetmalani, learned counsel for respondent, objected to the said documents being considered on the ground that they were forged and fabricated and demonstrated this before me by showing two separate documents, one annexed by the petitioner Shri Sunil Prabhu to his affidavit in lieu of examination of in chief, and the other set of the same documents which are annexed to the Supreme Court Convenience Compilation Volume 2. In the first set of documents annexed to the affidavit in lieu of examination in chief, termed as minutes of the meeting of Rashtriya Karyakarni, and purportedly 7 resolutions passed in the said meeting. In none of the resolutions there is any signature of any person whose name are shown on the said document. Only on page 105 of Shri Sunil Prabhu's affidavit in lieu of examination in chief, there is a sole signature of Shri Vinayak Raut, who is shown as Shiv Sena secretary. The perusal of the said document shows that the meeting was termed as Rashtriya Karyakarni. In the second set of documents, which are annexed to the Supreme Court Convenience Compilation Volume 2, the resolutions are shown on different pages, and they are not part of any minutes which was annexed to the affidavit in lieu of examination in chief of Shri Sunil Prabhu. These resolutions are shown on the letterhead of Shiv Sena, Rashtriya Karyakarni Baitak into bracket Pratinidhi Sabha. Petitioner relied on these documents to show that 7 resolutions have been passed, but in none of these documents there is even a single signature, save and except for signature of 2 persons. The name mentioned as proposer and seconder are not even members of Rashtriya Karyakarni, like Shri Rahul Shewale, who is not a member of Rashtriya Karyakarni, who has stepped into the witnesses and led evidence that there was no such meeting. The same is the case with Shri Vinayak Raut and Shri Arvind Sawant. They are also not members of the said Rashtriya Karyakarni. The petitioner had claimed that the said meeting was held on 25/6/2022 at Sena Bhavan, whereas Shri Uddhav Thackeray claimed that the said meeting was held through video conference. This has been stated by Uddhav Thackeray in his submission before the Election Commission filed on 9/1/2023. This itself casts a doubt on the authenticity of the documents and holding of any such meeting of either Rashtriya Karyakarani or Pratinidhi Sabha. The petitioner himself is not sure whether it was Rashtriya Karyakarani or Pratinidhi Sabha. Thus, in view of the above said documents, the said documents cannot be permitted to be relied on. Petitioner suggests that a look into how the Shiv Sena settled conflict or decisions within the leadership structure in the past might shed some light into this. However, in the present matter, no such material are placed before me to even suggest such instances which happened in the past, where the majority decision within the leadership structure is taken as the will of the political party. It is to be also noted that the petitioner has neither placed nor provided any material to show that historically the decision of the majority within the leadership structure is taken to be the final decision of the political party whenever there was a conflict of decision within the leadership structure. Thus, for this reason also, it would not be appropriate and correct to accept the proposition that the decision of the majority leaders within the leadership structure would have to be accepted as one which conveys the will of the political party. As a passing note, I must also add that the majority rule possibly could have been applied in a normal situation where there is dissent in respect to some policy and or administrative decision of the party. However, such a simple rule / test shall not be applied to determine an essential question in existential question in relation to the political party, such as in the present matter, where which faction is the real political party is required to be determined. Thus, in view of the decisions recorded herein above, I am not inclined to accept submissions of the UBT faction that will of the majority leaders in the 2018 leadership structure is synonymous with the will of the political party. Thus, from paragraph 112 to 128, I have dealt with whether the relevant leadership structure read with the Shiv Sena Constitution, SS Constitution, provides answer to the question which faction is the real political party. In view of the same, I record my conclusion and finding thereon as under. (2018) leadership structure is not at all in conformity with the constitution of Shiv Sena and thus does not provide a reliable outcome and or answer to the question which faction is the real political party and hence cannot be relied upon to determine the preliminary issue. Decision of the Paksha Pramukh is not synonymous with the will of the political party and thus if there is a rift in the leadership structure, the decision of the Paksha Pramukh cannot be taken as the will of the political party. When there is a vertical rift in the horizontal leadership hierarchy of the political party and both the factions within the said leadership structure emerged as a result claim to represent the will of the political party, it would not be appropriate to apply the test of which of the said faction decision carries the will and wish of the political party. In the case of Shiv Sena political party, will of the majority leaders in the 2018 leadership structure cannot be said to be synonymous with the will of the political party. In view of the findings recorded in the preceding paragraph, I hold that the 2018 leadership structure read with the SS Constitution does not provide any reliable answer to the question which faction is the real political party and consequently the 2018 leadership structure cannot be yardstick to determine which faction is the real political party. With regards to the legislative majority, I am not going to spend much time because that question is rather clear. In view of the above observations and findings, I hold as follows. Which faction is the real political party is discernible from legislative majority which existed when the rival factions emerged. Legislative majority which existed when the rival factions emerged can be discerned and or inferred from 1. The Shinde faction resolution dated 21st June 2022 and 23rd June 2022 available on record of the Legislature Secretariat, and the admitted position which can be inferred from the initiation of petitions against 38 legislators of Shinde faction by the UBT faction. Shinde faction had an overwhelming majority of 37 out of 55 MLAs with the when the rival faction emerged. From my analysis, observations, conclusions and findings recorded in paragraph 82 to 144 herein above, I hold that Shinde faction was the real Shiv Sena political party when rival factions emerged on 21st June 2022. In view of my findings that the Shinde faction was the real political party when the rival faction emerged, and that Shri Sunil Prabhu ceased to be the duly authorized whip from 21st June 2022, I further conclude that Shri Bharat Gogaole was validly appointed as the whip, as that was the reflection of the will of the Shiv Sena political party as on 21st June 2023. Following are the final conclusions, which is again a summary. Have the respondents incurred disqualification in terms of paragraph 21A of the 10th schedule of the Constitution on account of their acts, omissions and conduct? I will also read the final conclusion. Following are the final conclusions from the analysis, observations, conclusions, findings and rulings recorded from paragraph 82 to paragraph 158 herein above. I conclude as follows. Shinde faction was the real Shiv Sena political party when the rival factions emerged on 21st June 2022. Shri Sunil Prabhu ceased to be the duly authorized whip from 21st June 2022. Shri Bharat Gogaole was validly appointed as the whip of Shiv Sena political party on 21st June 2023. Shri Eknath Shinde was validly appointed as the leader of the Shiv Sena political party on 21st June 2023. Have the respondents incurred disqualification in terms of paragraph 21A of the 10th schedule of the Constitution on account of their acts, omissions and conduct? Petitioner has contended that the respondents are liable to be disqualified on various grounds. Both the petitioners and respondents' submission are recorded in section 2 herein above. The various grounds on which the petitioner based the plea for disqualification is dealt with, where the alleged conduct of the respondent is purportedly becoming totally incommunicado, attracts disqualification under paragraph 2(1)(a) of the 10th schedule. Whether the alleged conduct of the respondents in purportedly becoming totally incommunicado attracts disqualification under paragraph 2 subclause 1 subclause A of the 10th schedule. The first ground on which the petitioner sought disqualification of the respondents is that the respondents became incommunicado. The submission cannot be accepted and the respondents cannot be held to be disqualified on this ground for the following reasons. The ground is a mere allegation, and apart from mere assertion that the respondents have gone incommunicado, the petitioner has not put forth any evidence or material to substantiate it. For instance, the petitioner has not provided any material about who was sought to be contacted and by whom. When such an attempt was made, etc. A mere unsubstantiated statement that the legislators have gone incommunicado cannot even be a ground to attract disqualification under paragraph 21A of the 10th schedule. When rival factions emerge in a political party, especially within the leadership, it is possible for both the factions to allege that the other faction has gone incommunicado. In such a circumstance, especially in the light of the law laid down by the apex court in Subhash Desai Supra, it would not be correct to hold any faction to have incurred disqualification for going incommunicado without first determining which of the faction is the real political party, reflecting the will of the political party. Also, having held that the Shinde faction was the real political party when the rival factions emerged, the submission of the petitioner that the respondents have gone incommunicado ceases to hold any meaning for the purpose of disqualification. On the 20th of June 2022, elections for the Legislative Council were held. In his cross-examination, Shri Sunil Prabhu, PW1, stated that all the MLAs were present for the same. In the face of this evidence, it would not be possible to accept that the legislators had gone incommunicado. Respondents have placed that they have been in touch with the UBT faction. They substantiated it by stating that Shri Milind Narwekar and Shri Ravindra Phatak, MLC, of the UBT faction, had gone to Surat and met Shri Eknath Shinde and other respondents on 21st June 2022 on the instructions of Shri Uddhav Thackeray. This fact was not denied by the petitioner Shri Sunil Prabhu when a suggestion was put to him in the cross-examination. In fact, the petitioner admitted that Shri Milind Narwekar and Shri Ravindra Phatak, MLC, of the UBT faction had gone to Surat and met Shri Eknath Shinde and other respondents. Also, three of the witnesses for respondents have testified that Shri Milind Narwekar and Shri Ravindra Phatak, MLC, of the UBT faction had gone to Surat and met Shri Eknath Shinde and other respondents. On 21st June 2022, on the instructions of Shri Uddhav Thackeray, the testimony stood the test of cross-examination and the petitioner could not establish otherwise. Thus, on this count alone, or this count also, it would not be possible to accept the legislators were incommunicado, Whether the deliberate absence of the respondent in the SSLP meetings purported to be held on 21st June 2022 attracts disqualification under paragraph 21A of the 10th schedule. The second ground on which the disqualification is sought is that the respondent deliberately remained absent in the SSLP meeting held on 21st June 2022. Petitioners relied on the attendance sheet register of the meeting dated 21st June 2022. After having considered the submission advanced on this ground, I hold that respondents cannot be held to be disqualified on this ground. In view of my conclusion that 1. The Shinde faction was the real political party when factions emerged, and 2. Shri Sunil Prabhu ceased to reflect the will of the political party from the moment the faction emerged. Thus, it would not be correct to say that Shri Sunil Prabhu had any authority to call any meeting of the SSLP. Hence, on this ground alone, petitioner's case that the respondents were liable to be disqualified for non-attendance of the meeting dated 21st June 2022 is liable to be rejected. Irrespective of the conclusion that may be reached about which faction was the real political party, respondents could not be held to be disqualified on the ground that they deliberately remained absent in the SSLP meeting held on 21st June 2022. This is because of the following reasons. Petitioner relied upon the attendance sheet of the 21st of June 2022 to claim that all those MLAs who were signed the said attendance sheet were present in the meeting, while those who did not sign were not present. Based on this document, the UBT faction claimed that respondents remained deliberately absent. a comparison of the original attendance sheet produced along with the affidavit in lieu of chief examination of the petitioner Shri Sunil Prabhu, PW1, with the copy of the attendance sheet produced and verified as a true copy along with the petition, reveals that the two do not match. There are glaring discrepancies. The copy claimed to be the original of the said attendance sheet has a handwritten date of 21st June 2022, whereas the copy verified as the true copy of the original produced along with the petition does not have it. Further, Shri Sunil Prabhu stated in his cross-examination that the documents relied as the attendance sheet was in fact a register of MLAs to whom the whip of 21st June 2022 was served and received. So, facts show: 1. There are glaring discrepancies in the said attendance sheet. 2. The statements of Shri Sunil Prabhu shows the document relied upon as attendance sheet of MLA present on 21st June 2022 is in fact a register of service and receipt of the whip dated 21st June 2022 of the MLAs. Thus, the said document is unreliable and cannot be taken as proof of non-attendance of respondents in the meeting held on 21st June 2022. Hence, on this count as well.
And so it's now final. Like I said, big day in Maharashtra politics. Assembly Speaker Rahul Narwekar spoke and he says that the Eknath Shinde faction is the real Shiv Sena. And let me now talk to my colleague, who's of course the legal editor as well, Ashok Bagria, about to decode what all did Rahul Narwekar say and why is it that the way, I mean, I'm not saying that he has to kind of paraphrase the entire verdict, but the salient points of why the speaker thought that Eknath Shinde faction was the real Shiv Sena.
Sudha, three things coming out of the judgment. Number one, the speaker has completely relied on May 2023 verdict of the Supreme Court of India and the tests laid down by the Supreme Court in its verdict for the speaker to follow. The Supreme Court in its verdict had said that when the speaker decides as to which is the real political party or the real Shiv Sena in this question, what will have to be kept in mind. They gave an illustration. What had to be kept in mind by the speaker was, number one, what is the constitution of Shiv Sena? Number two, what is the political leadership of Shiv Sena? And number three, what was the numerical strength of the people who allegedly left the party? Now, on the first part, the constitution, the speaker has come to a conclusion that there are two constitutions before him which have been presented, one by the Uddhav Thackeray faction, the other by Eknath Shinde faction. However, there is another constitution which is with the Election Commission of India, and he basically has come to a conclusion that the original constitution of Shiv Sena on which he is relying is a 1999 constitution which was filed by the party with the Election Commission of India. Subsequently, in 2018, there was an amendment which was carried out,
right,
but it does not reflect. So he is saying that it's safe for me to assume that the 1999 constitution of Shiv Sena is the real constitution.
Okay.
Now, he says, I come to the second question about the political leadership. What does the constitution envisage with respect to the political leadership of the party? And then he goes into it and he says that in 2018, I have examined what the political leadership of the party was. He says, there is the party president, then there are other political leaders, and when the disqualification happened, it was the party president who purportedly reflected the view of the political party to suggest that Eknath Shinde was not a part of the real Shiv Sena. He says, I am rejecting this because for the simple reason that the constitution of the Shiv Sena party does not envisage this kind of an arrangement. The top body of Shiv Sena, according to the 1999 constitution, is the national executive.
Okay.
Only the national executive reflects the will of the political party.
Not an individual.
Not an individual, even though he could be the party president.
All right. Okay.
The third thing, he says that on both these counts, do not actually enable me to reach a conclusion, the speaker says. And he says, then I had to take into account where did the numerical strength lie. Clearly, 38 of the 55 Shiv Sena MLAs were with Eknath Shinde. So he says that after going through this process of trying to cull out the truth, the quest for truth, he's come to a conclusion that Eknath Shinde's political faction represents or is the real Shiv Sena.
Wonderful. And let me also tell our viewers that Jayant Menkar, who's a senior journalist, is with us, and so is Reni Abraham, and also of course Brijesh Pandey, my colleague. Brijesh, kind of surprised, or you think that no, I mean this was something we waited for the verdict? For,
not at all surprised, Sudha, because you know, this was the dominating feeling which has been going on in, you know, your various discussion with other journalists in Mumbai as well. And the fact is that yes, it has come as a shock for Uddhav Thackeray, and I think the party also knew about it. That is the reason why you remember since morning, you know, right from Sanjay Raut to
yes.
Aditya Thackeray, they have been talking about this meeting between the Chief Minister and the Speaker, called it illegal, and say that, you know, this clearly points to the fact that which way the wind is going to blow as far as this particular decision.
They called it, Brijesh, match fixing.
Match fixing, they call it match fixing. But you know, what was interesting was that, you know, I think, you know, one thing which decided the entire case, and that thing was whether or not the 2018 amendment was to be accepted or not. Once it was rejected, and once it was accepted that, you know, 1999 constitution is the real constitution, which has a national executive, which has a Pantha Pramukh, you know, the president of the party, and also differentiating between how his will is not the will of the political party. You know, the rest of the conclusion which were drawn on you know, on lines which everybody knew, and also the fact that, you know, you also relied on the fact that, you know, when the Election Commission of India decided to award Eknath Shinde's faction the symbol, the bow and arrow symbol, you know, they also kind of draw a similar conclusion, which of the constitution they accept, and they also went by 1999 constitution, and there was no written record of any kind of amendment which has been communicated to the Election Commission of India. And I think that is what seems to have decisively you know, sent this judgment in favor of Eknath Shinde. It is also, you know, because Eknath Shinde was on a sticky wicket, you know, as he himself said in that soundbite.
Right.
He's saying that, you know, that there have been intense speculation for last 6 months or 8 months that, you know, his days are numbers. The second this comes out, you know, he'll be sacked, and you know, Ajit Pawar will become the Chief Minister. I think this will see Eknath Shinde now asserting a bit more in the Mahayuti, because, you know, till now there was this sword hanging over him, a sword of disqualification, but now that sword is removed. Now, you know, the Shiv Sena, Uddhav Thackeray faction will go to Supreme Court, will challenge the decision of the Speaker, but it's not going to be anytime soon. Until then, now, you know, the real mantle of Shiv Sena now lies with Eknath Shinde, and now the assertion will also increase, because now there's no sword hanging on Eknath Shinde. So I say it's a big day for Eknath Shinde.
Eknath Shinde, Jayant Menkar and Reni Abraham, the two journalists, are still with us, and let's get them on the screen and talk to them about their first comment or response to what about the verdict, as it were. Jayant, you first.
Just expected the way Supreme Court has also gone. I mean, the only difference during the Supreme Court verdict, the judge went on pointing out the mistakes of Eknath Shinde and the Speaker, and then said, "As you have resigned, so I can't do anything." Here, right from the beginning, the Speaker went on to teach. In a way, I'm sorry to use the word. In a way, he went on to teach how the party should run, democratically, as per my knowledge. Mr. Narwekar was the part of Shiv Sena also, so he knows how Shiv Sena runs. He was a part of, as per my knowledge, even NCP also, and now he's in BJP. And he knows all the regional parties, the family-oriented, I'm putting it the word specifically, all the family-oriented or caste-oriented regional parties, how they function. Is there a real democracy? There is no real democracy at all. This is a fact. But now, as Mr. Narendra Modi wants, we should go as per the constitution. So the point is this, to be extremely critical, Mr. Nana Patole was also removed as the Congress MP just for asking the question to Mr. Prime Minister Narendra Modi in 2017. Now, is it democratic? Who would ask the question and who would answer? So the party should run democratically. Mr. Rahul Narwekar is trying to teach, and on that grounds, he is saying everything is legal. Mr. Shinde's faction is legal and all that. Okay.
Mr. Jayant, Brijesh, this side. I just wanted to ask you. I get the drift of your argument, but I just want to understand from you. There was a valid, question as to what happened to the 2018 amendment which Uddhav Thackeray was talking about. Was the ECI seized of the matter? What is your take on that? That that 1999 constitution is the real one, and the 2018 amendment which Uddhav Thackeray group presented before the speaker was rejected.
You see, it's so technical. From 1999 to 2013 or to 2018, I have got the constitution which simply says the constitution has got the what is that called as National Assembly, National Executive Karyakarini. It has got some 282 odd members or 242 exact figure, I don't remember. But, if you want to remove the party president, now Mr. Narwekar has gone too technically. Balasaheb never called himself Paksha Pramukh, Balasaheb called himself as Shiv Sena Pramukh. Here, in order to emotionally say that there is only one Shiv Sena Pramukh, Uddhav Thackeray took the word Paksha Pramukh. Now the contention is on that. What is this? Now this is too technical. If one wants to just pinpoint on that, you can pinpoint, and that's what is being done. Now as far as 2018 is concerned, now Mr. Brijesh, I have a question. Why nobody is tracing that about the removal of 16 is being more important? That Shiv Sena Paksha Pramukh Uddhav Thackeray has removed 16 legislatures, including Eknath Shinde, by Sunil Prabhu. I think without considering that point.
Yeah, Jayant, my colleague Ashok also wants to, but before that, gentlemen, let's listen to a voice. I think Mr. Athavale spoke on the matter, and then I get back to the debate.
इसमें तो मतलब एकनाथ शिंदे जी की कुर्सी बच गई है, लेकिन उद्धव ठाकरे के ग्रुप में हलचल मच गई है. मतलब जो स्पीकर ने फैसला दिया है, ये फैसला नियम के मुताबिक है, कानून के मुताबिक है, और 2/3 मेजॉरिटी के माध्यम से मतलब एकनाथ शिंदे के पास 37 MLA है, और इसीलिए इलेक्शन कमीशन ने भी मतलब सही शिवसेना एकनाथ शिंदे जी के ही मानी थी. उस पर माननीय राहुल नार्वेकर जी जो महाराष्ट्र विधानसभा के स्पीकर है, उन्होंने फैसला देते वक्त उन्होंने बताया है कि 1999 में शिवसेना ने जो संविधान बनाया था, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बनाया था, और अभी जो नया कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बनाया है, तो जो पुराना कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है उसको ही स्वीकार किया जा सकता है, नए कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को हम स्वीकार नहीं करेंगे.
All right. There you heard what Mr. Athavale said, and now earlier we were debating this, and Ashok Bagria, my colleague, wanted to ask a question of Jayant Menkar. Go ahead.
Okay, actually I didn't want to ask him a question, I just wanted to respond to a question that he's posed, that why is nobody questioning that why were those 16 MLAs of the Shinde faction not disqualified? Now here, as far as the Speaker is concerned, he's taken a very logically correct position. He said that, look, what I'll determine first, before I come to the question of disqualification, is that which faction
is the real faction,
is actually represents the political will, represents the will of the political party, and which is the real party. So, before deciding the question of disqualification, he decides the question as to which is the real political party, which is the real Shiv Sena, and which faction represents the will of the political party. And once he comes to that conclusion, he goes on to the second step and he says, now I am going to decide the question of disqualification. That is why, Mr. Jayant, this conclusion has come. You know, this decision of the Speaker will definitely be questioned. Will be questioned by the Uddhav Thackeray faction, raising, these are not only the questions which they will be raising, they will even be raising legal questions. Legalities will be involved in it. And probably when the matter goes back to the court, the Uddhav Thackeray faction will want an adjudication on this contentious issue before the 2024 general elections, which according to me seems very unlikely. So, for me, the Shinde faction goes into the 2024 elections with the bow and arrow symbol, and not just the bow and arrow symbol, but with also the fact that they are the real Shiv Sena.
And on that note, let's listen in to what the other side is feeling like. Priyanka Chaturvedi, the deputy leader of the UBT Shiv Sena. Just listen in to what she says.
एक तो मैं बिल्कुल ही सरप्राइज नहीं हूँ जिस तरीके से जिस डायरेक्शन में स्पीकर का डिसीजन जा रहा है। दूसरा, बचपन से हमने ये कहावत सुनी थी, वही होता है जो मंजूर खुदा होता है। रिपब्लिक है देश के, फिर कहा गया वही होता है जो मंजूर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन होता है। 2014 के बाद से एक नई परंपरा शुरू हुई है, वही होता है जो मंजूर अमित शाह और नरेंद्र मोदी होता है, और वही हम रहे हैं महाराष्ट्र में जिस तरीके से निर्णय लिए जा रहे हैं। मेरा एक मूल सवाल है, 2018 का अगर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, अमेंडेड कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन इलेक्शन कमीशन के पास नहीं था, जो भी हमें स्पीकर के माध्यम से पता चल रहा है, तो उसके आधार पर हर जो संवाद होता था इलेक्शन कमीशन का, हमारे पार्टी लीडरशिप उद्धव वाला साहब ठाकरे जी के पास क्यों जाता था? अगर आपके पास रिकॉर्ड नहीं था, जो सारे एबी फॉर्म्स जिसपे ये सारे गद्दार 40 लोग लड़े हैं, वो एबी फॉर्म्स पार्टी पक्ष प्रमुख ने साइन किए थे, वो कैसे मान्य हो गए? और चलिए मैं ये भी मान लूं कि आपको अमेंडेड कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में सहमति नहीं थी, तो किसने इलेक्शन कमीशन में आपको जाने से आपके हाथ रोके थे या पैर बांधे थे? आपको 2022 में याद आता है कि आपका संविधान क्या होता है? ये कुछ नहीं है, ये मौका परस्ती है, अनफॉर्चुनेट कॉम्प्रोमाइज ऑफ एथिक्स है। जिस चीज को सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने इलीगल और अनकॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल बोला था, उसको वैध करने का काम हो रहा है, ये दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण है।
वो आगे ये भी कह रहे थे कि यूबीटी गुट के पास कोई रिकॉर्ड नहीं है, कोई आपके पास कोई मटेरियल भी नहीं है।
वही मैं कह रही हूँ, वो ये कह रहे हैं 2018 का कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का रिकॉर्ड उनके पास नहीं है, अमेंडेड कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का। तो मेरे इलेक्शन कमीशन से एक ही सवाल है, आप इंट्रा पार्टी डेमोक्रेसी की बात कर रहे हैं, आप भारतीय जनता पार्टी से पूछे, इंट्रा पार्टी डेमोक्रेसी तो दूर की बात है, इंटर अलायंस डेमोक्रेसी है कि नहीं उनके पास? दूसरी बात, आप कह रहे हैं आपके पास रिकॉर्ड नहीं था, रिकॉर्ड नहीं था तो आपने सारे एबी फॉर्म्स को मान्यता किस आधार पर दी? अगर इंट्रा पार्टी डेमोक्रेसी नहीं थी और लोगों को कुछ लोगों को जो अब गद्दारी के उस पर उतर आए हैं, उन गद्दारों ने इलेक्शन कमीशन पे जाकर क्यों नहीं कंप्लेंट दायर की? तो अब आकर कहना, तो ये कुछ सवाल, कुछ बेसिक सवाल जो होते हैं वो दिमाग में आते हैं। पर मैं फिर भी कहूंगी, ये निर्णय से जनता का जो मूड है, जो जनता देख रही है किस तरीके से नाइंसाफी हुई है, जिस तरीके से एक पार्टी को तोड़ा गया है, आप मान लो ये हो गया है कि आपके घर में चोरी होती है, आप पुलिस स्टेशन जाकर कहते हैं मेरे घर में चोरी हुई है, आप उनको ये बोल देते हैं, पुलिस ये कह देती है कि ये चोरी जो हुई है, जो चोरी का सामान है वो चोरों को बिलोंग करता है, जो ओरिजिनल ओनर है उसको नहीं। आज जो काम हुआ है वही हुआ है इलेक्शन कमीशन के निर्णय से को लेकर, और आज इलेक्शन कमीशन का ये कहना कि हमारे पास ये कोई रिकॉर्ड नहीं है 2018 के अमेंडेड कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का।
And my colleague Kiran Tare is also joined us on the phone line. Kiran, tell us about, oh, he's joined us live. That's even more wonderful. Kiran, hi. So tell us about the atmosphere, about how people are responding to the political atmosphere and the general atmosphere, as it were, because since morning I've been speaking to you and you said it's a very, very important day in Maharashtra politics.
Of course, it's a very important day, and as the speaker had said, it's a landmark judgment. Before coming to that analysis, I would like to put out some chronology for the benefit of our viewers. It was in 1999 when late Balasaheb Thackeray was leading the party, and he was the Shiv Sena Pramukh, the Shiv Sena chief. In 2003, the party constitution was kept intact, and Uddhav Thackeray was introduced as the executive president. Till that time, everything was going okay, everything was smooth. But after Mr. Balasaheb Thackeray's death, the constitution was amended and Uddhav Thackeray himself appointed him as the Paksha Pramukh. I was present at the press conference when Uddhav Thackeray had announced that there will be no party chief, there will be no Shiv Sena Pramukh in the party. So, it was there that he was the only Shiv Sena Pramukh. So Uddhav Thackeray appointed himself as a Paksha Pramukh, and he left the position of Shiv Sena Pramukh as quiet, as vacant. So that has emerged as the biggest mistake of Uddhav Thackeray's political life, if the judgment today is considered. What the speaker has said, every power, whether it's to sack any party leader or whether to convene the meeting of the National Executive or the Pratinidhi Sabha, lies with the Shiv Sena Pramukh, with the party chief. But there is no Shiv Sena Pramukh. That's why the Paksha Pramukh is only a presiding officer. He cannot take the decision by his own without a consent of the National Executive. That has come a very, very big shock to Uddhav Thackeray and his tactics. As far as the political atmosphere is concerned, here outside Vidhan Bhavan, there is a pin drop silence. Except the journalists, nobody is speaking. Everybody is silent here on this front. Of course, the speaker is inside the house. He hasn't come out yet. We are hearing that he will give bites to the waiting media outside here. If he speaks, then we will definitely ask him in various aspects of the judgment. Of course, we, the viewers, have watched the judgment live, but still we'll try to ask the speaker what were the points which went in favor of Eknath Shinde. As far as the political concern, it has come as a big push to Eknath Shinde. Eknath Shinde has been saying since the day one that he represents the real Shiv Sena, and which has been affirmed by the speaker today. As far as Uddhav Thackeray's party is concerned, Uddhav doesn't have any option now. Now it will be very interesting to see the outcome of the petition filed by Eknath Shinde's camp. Shinde camp has filed a petition calling for disqualification of 14 MLAs supporting Uddhav Thackeray. Only one person, which is Aditya Thackeray, has not been named in that petition. So if the speaker disqualifies all those 14 MLAs, then it will be another blow to Uddhav Thackeray. Whether he will be able to capitalize it as an sympathy wave for him, whether he will be capitalize it as a political fortune for him, that will be an interesting question. We need to see in the coming days what will he do. But one thing is very clear, Uddhav Thackeray has got the biggest setback of his political life, and it will be very hard for him to recover from that shock.
All right, that was Kiran Tare, my colleague. Ashok, you know, I wanted to ask you while he was speaking, and he said, okay, Sudha, wait, let me explain. It's about who is heading the faction, because that also was a very integral part. So he became this, he became later this, the kind of metamorphosis, you know, just explain it for the viewers.
Actually, let me deal with it straight away, because this is the same argument that the speaker has dealt with in his verdict.
All right.
He says that we are dealing today with a situation where there are two factions to the party. One faction is headed supposedly by the party president, and the other faction is headed by Mr. Eknath Shinde. Mr. Eknath Shinde allegedly has run away, defected from the party, has split the party and gone somewhere else. Now, the argument which is being made here is that Mr. Shinde has done it against the will of the political party. That's why Mr. Uddhav Thackeray takes a decision that I am chucking you out of the party. Here, Mr. Narwekar, who is the speaker, he says, let's take the reverse situation. Suppose Shinde walks away with 37 MLAs and Shinde stays back with 37 MLAs and Uddhav Thackeray were to walk away with the rest of the MLAs. Will it be right to say that as the party president, he is reflecting the will of the party, whereas the majority of the legislators are with the other side?
Right.
So he says, look, there has to be a balance. So this argument cannot be accepted that whatever the president decides is reflection of the will of the political party. Because if that were to be the case, in a democracy, in a democratic political party, it will amount to dictatorship.
You know, I was just thinking that here dissent is also being encouraged to a great extent. Dissent in democracy, where you have the right to dissent, maybe. I mean, I know it's a larger thing, but you were saying that, and I was only thinking, then what is the point? If you cannot raise your voice. Coming back to you, Rennie Abraham, senior journalist. Thank you so much, Rennie, for your patience. Go ahead, tell us what's your first reaction to this and to this verdict, which all of us have been waiting with bated breath.
Sudhaji, the first takeaway for me after listening to the Speaker of the State Legislature in Maharashtra, Mr. Rahul Narwekar, is that he has legitimized the whip, the appointment of the whip by the Eknath Shinde group. Now, that's the first thing of contention as far as I can make out, because it was a five-member bench of the Supreme Court, headed by the Chief Justice Dhananjay Chandrachud, that had termed as illegal the appointment of the Bharat Gogavle as the whip by the Eknath Shinde faction. So now that is the first point of contention, I suspect, which the Shiv Sena, Uddhav Thackeray led faction is going to go to the Supreme Court with, saying, look, it is contempt, or it is, a violation of what you had held in your earlier ruling. Now, that's one aspect of it, of course. Secondly, I feel that in a manner of speaking, Mr. Narwekar has endorsed while even stating it, that the Uddhav Balasaheb Thackeray faction kept saying that these MLAs had become incommunicado, but he insisted that it was not so. But at the same time, he himself admitted that there was two representatives of the Uddhav Balasaheb Thackeray faction.
Rennie, I'm so sorry to interject. Will you hold your thought? I have to take a break. I'm going to come back and once again, speak with Rennie Abraham. Back in a jiffy.